everybody. How you doing? You. So when I first talked to Sarah about giving this little lightning talk, I was like, what are we thinking about in terms of what do you want me to talk about? And we came out with this fantastic outline. There was about an hour of content. And so the other day I was like, well, how much time do I really have? And she said 7 minutes. So here we go. So basically, the idea is, I'm a professor of design technology at Parsons School of Design in New York, but I'm also a media and technology consultant for the Smithsonian Museum, National Museum of Natural History. And being part of that museum and involved in that team, a lot of the work we're doing is around dinosaurs. And one of the ongoing conversations is about the application of technology within the museum space. Like, how essential is it? What are the compelling reasons to invest in that direction? And it happens that I'm working on about 3 AR projects right now at the museum. So very often thinking about sort of like the entree of technology and narrative sort of platforms into the museum, VR and AR are the 2 big ones that come up that people are familiar with. This breakdown is sort of like my take on some of these things. Really quickly, VR is low volume, low capacity, meaning you're not gonna touch as many users with VR as a technology, but you might give them a deeper experience than maybe most AR experiences. You can kind of read this on your own, and time is ticking. So I'm going to focus on the AR part of that. The things that I like about AR is it's potentially a higher volume, with the caveat that you can get people to actually adopt or install that AR experience onto their mobile device, which is still the primary platform for AR conveyance. Unfortunately, like a 5% adoption rate for any sort of application within the museum space is just mind-blowingly amazing. 2% is maybe more typical. So that's why I say sort of depending on adoption rate. Currently, the experience is sort of more about the splash of AR. Let's show an animated dinosaur. The general reaction is like, what is this specimen or object, and how can we bring it to life? But it doesn't really get deep into the narrative of the object. It leverages the user's device, which means you don't have to check in and out VR equipment or audio equipment. You don't have to manage hygiene at all. Nobody needs to be cleaning these things. And it better supports in-app onboarding, potentially. You don't need somebody there to train users. So generally, AR in museums, it's really about wayfinding. Like, how do you get from point A to B? How do you find the content that you're looking for? It's about these sort of surprising moments that are kind of a little shallow. And very often, sort of the content that is in these experiences is relegated from the editorial content that didn't make the initial cut. What didn't end up on the museum wall ends up in maybe the AR application, support application. Let's see, we got over that. The hard thing about AR is that we don't really have strong precedents. We have a lot of museums that are investing in this space, but it's not, I haven't seen something that's made a really compelling argument for the application of AR. And so there's sort of this sense of cautious optimism. And even when I'm consulting with the Smithsonian, I'm cautiously optimistic. I know there's a use of AR that is going to be exciting and powerful. But you have this whole host of potential issues. Some museums are sort of conservative in nature, and so there's this kind of friction or resistance to the adoption of new technologies. And so you end up having to come up with arguments to anticipate these. A big one is bullet point 2 in this column, that entertainment is generally a dirty word. I was admonished recently for using entertainment in a meeting, and everybody was just like, stop. Don't use that word. And I was like, well, actually, museums are sort of, whether they like it or not, in the entertainment business. And entertainment as a word doesn't mean shallow experience. You can have an experience of depth, but that's sort of a wall that you have to get through, I'm finding. Let's see. A couple product-related or technology-related issues is image anchoring. GPS is fantastic, but if you're using it to talk about an object here, its anchor on a wall might be appearing anywhere within sort of this 10 to 15 foot space. And so it's unreliable unless you have some sort of support like beacon technology to sort of triangulate position and get a little bit more specificity. People are not yet used to this idea of sort of the museums of having users look at a device in their hand. It seems it's like a competition with content that is on the floor or on the wall. And so there's sort of a resistance to this idea. This is a project I'm currently working on. It was rolled out at the Hirshhorn Museum in Washington, D.C., also a Smithsonian unit. And it has a lot of qualities that I'm excited about. So basically what it is, it's a browser-based AR experience. It doesn't require any app install. And in theory, if lighting and all universal, sort of like qualities are aligning, you should be able to open your mobile device and go to this URL, hi.si.edu, and experience this AR right now by pointing your camera at that object. Things that I like about this idea. It's not delivering a lot of content. It's not doing a lot of animation. It's not doing the splash. However, it doesn't require any application install, which is a huge advantage because there's, as I said earlier, there's usually like a 2% adoption rate for apps within the museum space. Is anybody trying this? Curious. Yeah, did it work? Because this is a gamble I'm taking. And I'm sure the museum, they were like, you're talking and you're showing the content in front of the room outside of the museum space. They may not love that. I'm not sure. But the idea that this is actually then a portable experience is also fascinating, that you could kind of curate your own sort of experiences based on museum content. I'm going to give people another second to try that. I'm going to do another image just to throw you off. And this is exciting to me because of the portability of it. And I also, being kind of an agitator, I like the idea that it's sort of an idea that you could sort of subvert easily to sort of curate your own Hirshhorn Museum experiences at home or in an alleyway or in your mom's basement, wherever it is. Is this working for people? Except when I switch slides? Okay, great. So there are certain kinds of content types that the experience has. Video, there are certain kinds of card or copy-based content types, but it's sort of limited to that at the moment. This is functionally at a very, very high level how it works. At the top here, the institution will document an object. Say it's that chair, they'll take 100 to 200 photos from various angles of that object. That will then be uploaded to a server hosted by a company called Cachum in Spain. And then whenever a user points their mobile device at that object, it references the server in Spain for the image recognition. That information is then handed back to the user's device, and the AR experience is displayed. So there's sort of this network of relationships that's happening between, say, the Smithsonian, LinkedIn, which is the image host, and this company Linked by Air. They're based in Brooklyn, New York, and they are the ones who are actually managing sort of the front-end development of the application. And what we're finding with this experience is that visitors really like the insider information. They like this idea that they're getting some sort of exclusive dish on objects. They respond very well to video. Video, particularly like after 30 seconds, we're seeing sort of a drop-off in attention span or sort of dwell time in the experience. And so we're trying to figure out how to edit content and video to sort of optimize towards that sort of like punchy little moment. People are interested in the people stories behind objects. They're liking that they enjoy the dinosaurs, but in this museum space like Smithsonian, they're in front of the dinosaur, and they're finding that the content they really like is about the paleontologist or the paleobiologist or somebody like this who's conducting research about the object. Visitors, not surprisingly, don't like to read. And what we found also is even though the experience itself works pretty well, we get the most adoption rate when there's somebody on the floor next to the user saying, oh, go to the website and you can do this thing. Even though there's instructionals around on the walls and all these things, it still requires a little bit of like in-person training for the adoption. Things I'm sort of excited about. One is pushing the platform at the Hirshhorn to learn what it's really good at. Like right now we're showing text and we're showing video, but as a game designer, I'm also really curious to see, like, thinking beyond the use of AR as a scavenger hunt, what kind of game experiences can be designed using this platform. One of the things I'm really excited about is like AR and chatbots, the ability to push content to users based on location, where they are, what object or specimen they've actually maybe just downloaded and looked at. being able to then, through SMS or text, keep them updated on other kinds of content. Right here, I've included this just because I love it. It's actually some friends of mine at a company called Patched Reality. They're based in Chicago. And they made this AR experience using 6D.ai. And it's basically, it's using sort of like a natural language programming to spawn commands using a like Google image word library to control these bunnies. So you could say like bunny, and through AR it spawns a bunny into the space. And you have a limited set of controls. You could give the bunny like follow me or play a game. You can feed them, you can do things like that. I'm currently talking to them about the idea of turning these into docents or tour guides, where you could say, hey, bunny, show me the T-Rex. And the bunny will spawn. It will actually have the floor plan of the museum, and it can just be like, and take you to content. And while it's doing that, it's also sort of maybe learning a little bit about you. It could be learning sort of at what pace are you consuming content, so it can always kind of linger within your periphery. It could start to suggest and push other suggestions to you as you're sort of collecting data about the user. Like, I love this kind of relationship. And it also starts to dissolve the walls between sort of education and entertainment. You know, it can be playful, it can be fun, and it can also be a vehicle for getting to rich content. The other thing we were thinking about chatbots, or an idea that interests me, is chatbots is you could have multiple scripts. So you could experience an exhibition from the perspective of the curator, or from the exhibition designer, or from the paleontologist. And this could also be gone through a chatbot or through AR, maybe some combination of the two. That is what I have. That was sort of a little fast blitz. Thank you very much.